Hi there, Salwe. I'm Mrs. Weiss. Welcome to Latin Storytime. Today I'm going to be reading you the story of Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Now some of the words that I use today will be in Latin. So before we begin, let me introduce you to those words. Here's a family, and in this family there's pater, mater, and infans. Now we have ursus. This is probably a pater ursus. And here is a cella. Are you sitting in a cella right now? I'm sitting in cella. And then here is lectus. Lectus is where you sleep at night. And I bet you have to make it in the morning when you get up, don't you? All right, now we're ready to read Goldilocks and the Three Ursi. Once upon a time, there were three Ursi who lived in a house of their own in a wood. One of them was a little small infans ursus, and one was middle-sized mater ursa, and the other was great, huge pater ursus. They had each a pot for their porridge, a little pot, infanti urso, a middle-sized pot, matri ursi, and a great big pot, patri urso. And they had each cellon to sit in, a little cella, infanti urso, and a middle-sized cella, matri ursi, and a great cella, patri urso. And they had each lectum to sleep in. There was little lectus, infanti urso, and middle-sized lectus, matri ursi, and great lectus, patri urso. One day, after they had made the porridge for their breakfast and poured it into their porridge pots, they walked out into the wood while the porridge was cooling, that they might not burn their mouths by beginning too soon to eat it. And while they were walking, a little girl called Goldilocks came to the house. First, she looked in at the window. Then she peeked in at the keyhole, and seeing nobody in the house, she turned the handle of the door. The door was not fastened because these Ursi were good Ursi who did nobody any harm and never suspected that anybody would harm them. So Goldilocks opened the door and went in, and well pleased she was when she saw the porridge on the table. The porridge looked tempting, and she set about helping herself. So first, she tasted the porridge patris ursi, and that was too hot for her. Then she tasted the porridge matris ursi, and that was too cold for her. Then she went to the porridge infantis ursi and tasted that, and it was neither too hot nor too cold, but just right. So she ate it all up. Then Goldilocks sat down in cella patris ursi, and that was too hard for her. And then she sat down in cella matris ursi, and that was too soft for her. Then she sat down in cella infantis ursi, and that was neither too hard nor too soft, but just right. So she seated herself in it, and there she sat till the bottom of cella came out, and down she came plump upon the ground. Then Goldilocks went into the room in which the three Ursi slept. First she lay down upon lectum patris ursi, but that was too high at the head for her. Next she lay down upon lectum matris ursi, and that was too high at the foot for her. Then she lay down upon lectum infantis ursi, and that was neither too high at the head nor at the foot, but just right. So she covered herself up comfortably, and there she lay till she fell fast asleep. By this time, the three Ursi thought their porridge would be cool enough, so they came home to breakfast. Now Goldilocks had left the spoon, patris ursi, standing in his porridge. "Somebody has been eating my porridge," said pater ursus in his great rough, gruff voice. And when mater ursa looked at hers, she saw that the spoon was standing in it too. "Somebody has been eating my porridge," said mater ursa in her middle voice. Then infans ursus looked at his, and there was the spoon in the porridge pot, but the porridge was all gone. "Somebody has been eating my porridge and has eaten it all up," said Infans Ursus in his little small wee voice. Upon this, the three Ursi, seeing that someone had entered their house and eaten up the breakfast Infantis Ursi, began to look about them. Now Goldilocks had not put the hard cushion straight when she rose from Cella Patris Ursi. "Somebody has been sitting in my cella," said Pater Ursus in his great rough, gruff voice. And Goldilocks had squatted down the soft cushion Matris Ursi. "Somebody has been sitting in my cella," said Mater Ursa in her middle voice. And you know what Goldilocks had done with the third cella. "Somebody has been sitting in my cella and has broken it," said Infans Ursus in his little small wee voice. Then the three Ursi thought it necessary that they should make farther search, so they went into their room. Now Goldilocks had pulled the pillow Patris Ursi out of its place. "Somebody has been lying in my lecto," said Pater Ursus in his great rough, gruff voice. And Goldilocks had pulled the blankets Matris Ursi out of their place. "Somebody has been lying in my lecto," said Mater Ursa in her middle-sized voice. And when Infans Ursus came to look at his lectum, there was the pillow in its place, and upon the pillow was the head of Goldilocks, which was not in its proper place, for she had no business being there. "Somebody has been lying in my lecto, and here she is," said Infans Ursus in his little small wee voice. Goldilocks had heard in her sleep the great rough gruff voice Patris Ursi and the middle-sized voice Matris Ursi, but it was only as if she had heard them in a dream. But when she heard the voice Infantis Ursi, it was so sharp and so shrill that it awakened her at once. Up she started, and when she saw three Ursos on one side lecti, she tumbled herself out at the other and ran to the window. Now the window was open because these Ursi, like good tidy Ursi as they were, always opened their window when they got up in the morning. Out Goldilocks jumped and ran away as fast as she could run, never looking behind her. And what happened to her afterwards I cannot tell, but the three Ursi never saw anything more of her. The end. Thanks for joining me today for Latin Storytime. I'll see you next time. Bye.